this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. This is the episode a lot of you guys have been waiting for. Today we'll be comparing the H300 compared to the NAMA J2 juicer. Now before I get into this juice off comparison, I do want to give you guys a disclaimer. I am located in the US and I sell the NAMA as well as Hurom models in the USA, but Hurom has not yet brought in the Hurom H300 into the United States. I'm not sure if or when they will do this, but at this time when this video is being filmed, which is August 2022, they have not yet imported it. That being said, NAMA is available in the United States as well as around the world in many countries. And so you can check the link down below to get a version for the US or for Europe, the UK, or the European Union or Australia. So yeah, that's what I'm going to tell you guys on that. Oh, the other thing I want to mention is the warranty in the USA. The standard Hurom warranty is 10 years on the motor and 2 years on the parts, right? On the NAMA J2, the warranty is 15 years on the motor and 2 years on the parts. So actually you get a better warranty when buying a NAMA J2 here in the USA. Now the other thing I will say is that Hurom just introduced their H310 model in the USA, and I don't want you guys to get confused. The H310 is basically the little brother or little sister of the H300. It has the same juicing parts, but it is literally a miniature compact version with a shorter run time. So the motor is not as strong, although it works the same way and makes a similar result. That being said, the hopper in the H310 only has enough room for like one apple plus some other things that you could put on the side of it. So the hoppers are nowhere as large as on these full-size machines. Of course, that machine also costs less. So I look forward to giving you guys an unboxing review of the H310 as soon as I get my hands on one. It's going to be quite interesting. That will likely be my favorite travel juicer, but it doesn't even have a hole in the top, so you can't really do continuous juicing. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But if you guys want a full-size juicer, the NAMA J2 or the H300 is it. That being said, if you guys are watching me from around the world, the warranty for your Hurom may vary in your country, so please check the country you're located in. As far as I'm aware, the NAMA J2 warranty is consistent throughout different countries. 15 years on the motor and 2 years on the parts, but that may also vary as well. Alright, so let's get into this comparison. While these juicers may look pretty similar, they're also a fair bit different, although they work on the same principles. So the first thing I'm going to tell you guys that these juicers may look pretty similar to you, and they do pretty much the same thing. They have a hopper that you can fill up. So this is next generation juicing technology. Then they have an auger and a method to extract the juice. Each one of these machines do it a little bit differently. And to say the NAMA J2 is superior to the H300, that wouldn't actually be accurate. Or I couldn't say the H300 is better than the NAMA J2. I can't say this is better than that. It depends on your needs and what you specifically want, right? I'm a dealer for both Hurom and NAMA, and my goal is to be impartial. You know, I've been using the NAMA J2 a lot, and to be honest with you, when I first got the H300, I'm like, this isn't going to be too good. But when I started using it, I'm like, man, you know what? This is actually pretty good juicer, you know, but with some downfalls. And of course, the NAMA J2 has some downsides as well. I personally don't believe there's as many downsides to the J2 as the H300, but I'm not here to just share with you guys my opinions. I'm here to prove it to you. So actually what we're going to do first is go over each of the juicers part by part, a dissection of the parts to show you how they work, how they're the same, how they're different, and which juicer may benefit you more depending on your specific needs, all right? So first coming off, you guys can see we got the heights and the height difference. You guys can see they're almost the same height, but the Hurom is just a little bit taller. The NAMA J2 is already a fairly tall juicer. Now I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take these main parts off the juicer base so I can disassemble them, and we're going to go ahead and show you guys the tops of the machines. The tops of the machines look fairly similar. They both got a same size hole in the top so you guys can do continuous feeding. That being said, you would want to do generally, you know, load up the hopper and then let it run so it'll save you time. That's what both these machines do. Now, both these have handles on the back, but I like the design of the Nama because on the back of the Nama there's a little trigger switch that you just press, and then you could easily lift the top, you know, as you're holding it, right? With the Hurom, the handle's in the back, but then to release the top, you have to basically use your thumb and press down, and this is a fairly good press. So you have to press down and lift up at the same time. So it's like not quite as ergonomic, I would say, to do that, as you can just put your hand here and just slide this along here, and this basically just pops up. Super simple, super easy. All right, so let's go ahead and pop that up. And now I will say that the hinge on the Hurom is like not quite as wide, so the hinge you would think on the Nama is a bit more wide and maybe more stout. But the way Hurom's designed this is that this is a lot more sticky, or it sticks on a lot more firmer and harder. One of the challenges, I'll be honest with you guys, hopefully Nama improves this, I know they are working on small improvements over time, is that this top tends to kind of fall off because the hinge isn't super tight, right? So it could fall off on you. All right, and then once you remove the tops, what I will say is this. I will say that I prefer the Nama top better. Why? There's two main reasons. Number one, if we put these over each other, you can see the Hurom top behind the Nama top, meaning there's more square area to clean by just a tad bit more than the Nama J2 because there's just more plastic. In addition, if you guys look at the funnel, number two reason, the funnel on the J2, it's actually kind of sloped, kind of like a little mini volcano, so like things will fall into the volcano. On the Hurom, it's actually more flat, so things won't generally roll in there as well. So this will make feeding your juicer a lot more convenient. Of course, on the bottom of the lids, they're both fairly similar. They got some nooks and crannies that you will need to clean. Next, coming apart, we have the hoppers here. J2 hopper, Hurom hopper. So first thing you guys are noticing is that the Hurom hopper is not quite as tall as the Nama J2 hopper. This means it does not hold as much fruit or vegetables or whatever you're going to juice to fill it up. So you're going to have to fill it up more often, releasing that little thumb button on the top of the H300 than you would the Nama J2. Now, besides being a little bit taller on the Nama J2, if we go ahead and put this like upside down on the Hurom technically is a little bit more wide, but not by much, by like that much. But the thing is, if we look in the top there, you guys can see this is pretty much a round all the way, and this kind of protrusion kind of comes out. But if you guys look on the Hurom, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the Hurom is round, but then it has a flat side on it. So this also reduced the capacity of the hopper area. I guess the Hurom claims it's like 2 liters, and on the J2 I haven't measured it, but I would say it's 2+ liters. So because it has a little bit higher, it's a little bit taller, and it doesn't have that side thing cut off on the side. All right. Now in the hopper, I don't know if you guys can see that, but in the hopper there's like a little processing blade assembly. So the processing blade assembly, to me, my untrained eye, looks a tad bit more aggressive on the J2. It kind of comes up to a bigger hook, whereas the Hurom hook is like not quite as high up. Now the other thing that was quite interesting, you know, I just got that H300. I've been using this Nama J2 for a little bit. When I go to turn this processing blade, it spins fairly easily. You know, I don't think this has a bearing in there. It might be smart to put a bearing. I think it's just a plastic bearing, but it might be smart to put a real bearing in there because this puts additional drag on the motor. But I could turn this fairly easily with my fingers. Now if I do the same thing for the Hurom, it's like really tight, like significantly tight, like they don't have quite the quality control they have on the Nama. I don't know if I got a defective piece or what, but you actually just, did you hear that? It actually was squeaking as I was turning it because it is so tight. Maybe it's wrenched down and it's like rubbing against the bottom a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. But yeah, that's quite tight there. So otherwise, these parts do pretty much the same thing. Once again, I want to let you guys know that both these machines are advertised as BPA free. Both of them have like cutouts on the bottom that the food gets kind of pushed down into as the machine is working. I mean, they look to be a fairly similar size to me after looking at these side by side. Now what's different is the bottoms of these. I don't know if you guys can see the bottoms, but they both have actually a similar style, like metal coupling there. But what's a little bit different is that the NAMA J2 has a gasket on the outside, so should juice back up in your bowl, it won't like just seep out this little seal here, because it has a gasket. And it's on the outside, so this is basically a non-intrusive gasket. Going to be fairly easy to clean because generally it's not going to get cruded up with like liquid or juice or anything like that. And inside this area, it's fairly easy to clean and fairly easy to access. You will get a little bit of pulp backed up in here when you're done juicing. That's just how it works. Now the Hurom took a little bit different approach. Instead of having the gasket on the outside, which would be easier to clean, this is kind of more in a food path area where it's more likely to get, cruded up and things get stuck in the gasket. In addition, I don't understand why the Hurom designers actually just put this little line right here. I don't know if you guys could see that, but there's like a little indentation there where pulp gets stuck. So now this makes it a little bit harder to clean, although this is their easy clean juicer. Maybe they did that to, not infringe on the patent. I mean, I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, that makes this piece a little bit harder to clean. So lower capacity, tighter processing blade, harder to clean. On this part, I'm going to give it to the NAMA J2. So far, NAMA J2 won this part and won this part, the feed chute. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at the juicing apparatus. So over on the Hurom H300, you have a two-piece auger and screen design. So this is actually a screenless design. It's their easy clean design. This is easier to clean on some levels. On some levels it's not easier to clean. It really depends on what you're juicing. If you're juicing something like, oranges, it's going to be easier to clean. But if you're juicing something like turmeric that stains, it's going to be more challenging to clean than the more traditional approach of the NAMA J2 that has a traditional auger, one-piece auger instead of a two-piece auger. But then this also has a juicing screen as well as a wiping blade. The wiping blade helps keep your juices mixed, helps keep the screen clean, and helps to shuttle the juice out of the juicer instead of staying stuck inside the machine. So, while the Hurom has basically two parts to clean, on the NAMA, at the same time you'd be cleaning 1, 2, 3 parts to clean. Now I will say that you could assemble your NAMA without the rotating brush. If you guys don't want, then you would have 2 parts to clean, because that's how the Hurom works. That being said, I usually always install my cleaning brush inside the NAMA J2. So the question is, comparing these two augers, once again, the one part of the auger and this auger is a lot heavier. Although if we look at the design is a little bit similar on the top, but a little bit different. This one's a lot wider. Of course, on both these augers, you will get pulp underneath when you're done, so do not be alarmed if that occurs. Actually, more on the Hurom, you're going to probably get more juice and maybe pulps coming through the little cracks. Now, the other thing is I'm a little bit concerned about the Hurom auger. If you guys look at the pieces there, if I bend that down, you can see it flexing. So I'm concerned if I drop this on like a tile floor and it hit with this piece break. I mean, this is the GE Ultim, so it's pretty strong. But that being said, that looks like it'd be more likely to break, for example, than a good solid piece here. That being said, this might dent or ding your floor, or dent or ding the auger. So please, guys, these are not designed to be dropped on concrete or tile floors anyways. But this one seems a little bit more, heavier to me. Also, NAMA put these little divots in the auger that is said to help it reduce the noise when juicing. Now, this is the other piece that actually goes into the auger. So basically when produce is crushed, the juice actually falls inside and comes out the bottom of the auger and then exits the juicer. So that's actually a unique design, and actually the spaces in between there are quite tight. Now the challenge I have with this part, once again, is this little centerpiece. If you guys move that, you can see it's moving in there. So once again, if you knock this the wrong way, it might break and then your juicer might not work properly. Whereas on the NAMA design, you have a juicing screen, which you can also break. I've rarely broken juicing screens, But this could break, so I'm not going to tell you it's like not going to break, but I would believe the plastic parts would break more sooner than a stainless steel screen would. The other thing is that the holes on the screen may allow for less pulp into your juice overall, and that's what we'll be testing in just a little bit. Of course, you will have to scrub the screen outside and inside when you are done juicing, as well as clean off that wiping blade. So there's a few more parts in the NAMA. This is the traditional way that slow juicers have worked for like 20 years with a juicing screen. I'm glad that Hurom is innovating the technology and taking it to the next level, and introducing new methods of juicing that can make it easier to clean, maybe save you overall like 1 minute cleaning the juicer in the long run. But the 1 minute savings in juicer savings may cost you, because now maybe this machine is not as efficient in yield, and or maybe puts more pulp in the juice. So on these parts, I don't know, man. Like, this is kind of a toss-up. I'm kind of like in between. I can't say the NAMA is better than the Hurom design. It really just depends. Like, my heart is tried and true, because this is the screen design that has been proven technology and used for so many years. And I mean, let's face it, like the screenless design, easy clean technology, especially this specific design, is just released by Hurom, and this is their first machine they're using it on. So it's not yet proven technology to me. Just juicing with the H300 on my own, I've noticed that it doesn't get quite the level of extraction the NAMA J2 does when I make my specific recipes, but of course your mileage may vary, depends on specifically what you are juicing. Now the final part is the bowl on both machines. I will say to me that the NAMA J2 bowl is significantly easier to clean than the Hurom bowl. So while the Auger was easier to clean than the 3 parts on the NAMA, the bowl on the NAMA is significantly easier to clean than the Hurom, in my opinion. Alright, why is that? Well, because there's basically, you're going to get pulp inside this area, maybe some juice residue, and then you can take this flap and drop it down, and then all the pulp comes out. And then you have a pretty straightforward flap here where the juice comes out that you could get in there and wash. So that's no nooks and crannies to clean. You could get into all these different spaces fairly quickly and easily without too much hassle. Meanwhile, over on the Hurom juicing bowl, they've got a lot of things going on in this juicing bowl, in my opinion. Number one, if you should get splashes, you got like a little handle, you got a little impression here that I haven't gotten clogged or stuck up with juice, but it could happen. And then you have basically, this is doing the function of that the screen does in the J2. It has the grinder blades. Now the J2 has 4 main grinder blades with some smaller indented stainless steel grinder blades in the bottom. This grinds up the produce and then squeezes the produce out. That being said, Hurom went over the top with the grinder blades on this and put significant amount of grinder blades. And you know what, with every grinder blade or these little plastics that are sticking out, there's like square corners on there. Well, not quite, they're not quite square, but anyways, in the little corners, that's where pulp could get stuck and jammed, especially if you're using something like turmeric that has kind of fatty, waxy deposits. That could kind of get, stuck in there, those waxy deposits, all right? And they've also colored it kind of yellow, so you maybe can't see carrot stains. I'm not exactly sure why they did this like a 2-color thing. And also on the bottom of this, I don't know if you guys can see, but it goes pretty far deep in there, and you're going to need to use their special included brush to kind of get in to clean this outer chamber, or the outer gutter inside that shuttles the pulp out of the machine, as well as the inner gutter, which then shuttles the juice out. So, getting deep in there is a lot more difficult than this. So you're going to save some time on the Auger versus the Auger on screen, versus, this will take you more time than this will. So you're kind of like trading time. That being said, Hurom still will save you a little bit of time. Okay, so over on this part, like I'm really not the biggest fan of this part, because if you look at this part, this is a well-engineered designed part. It's just simple. There's a main outer surface and inner surface, and you clean it. Like with this, you have like an inner surface, and then if you flip it over, you can see it's hollow on the inside. So if you should get juice or water when you're cleaning it, or pulp residue, you're gonna have to like spray this out. Also, if you like to keep your things spot free, which I don't, if you clean this out with water, then you get water spots on the inside. There's the outside, the inside of the outer and then there's the outside of the inner, and then the inside of the inner. So there's basically like 4 different places to like, you know, get things in there. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. In addition, I really just like the shape of this. It's just cylindrical. And on the Hurom, you guys can see it's basically indented in there. So like, I don't know, just once again, I'm here for easy cleaning, and with all these little areas that it's indented, juice could get stuck, pulp could get in there. Just more surface area to clean if you're gonna actually clean it instead of just rinse it every time. And then you got the spout cap. Now the spout cap, I like how the spout cap works. That being said, there's a long run, so when your juice gets juiced, it has to come out this longer run. It's like about that wide, whereas the run on the Nama is like this wide. So it's less run, which means, you know, you're gonna have to like shove that cleaning brush in there longer if you're doing more than just rinsing it out. And I encourage you guys to, you know, not just rinse your juicer out, but use some soap and water on the brush, because what's gonna happen is over time your juicer will look like this. You know, I got basically mineral deposits and carotenoid and different, you know, color pigments from the vegetables stained in my juicer. This is going to happen a lot faster for you if you just rinse things out without using soap. The soap acts as a surfactant and pulls out some of those, you know, minerals and as well as the colorants of the fruits and vegetables you guys are juicing. Once again, on the outlet port on this where the pulp comes out, this is very similar, right? These ones are like so similar, it's kind of funny. We'll put them out one on top of each other. So we could like flip this down, you can see this that drops down, and we could flip this down and this drops down, right? So it's kind of almost the same thing. That being said, they implemented this a little bit differently. So while the Nama J2 has a little silicone flap that you can remove, right? So don't lose it. I like this because it's easy and clean. You could kind of get in there and clean underneath it quite easily. And on the Hurom, they've done it a little bit differently. They still got that flap. They color it orange, and you could remove it. But the problem is, it's stuck on with a little like piece. So if you pull this too hard, it's going to break. So this is so that you don't lose it. But at the same time, now there's a hole underneath here. There's a little piece you got to get underneath here. You got to flip this over when you're cleaning it. So it makes it a little more harder to clean, but you're not going to lose that piece. So, you know, there's a trade-off. Which one would you have? I don't really know. Would you rather not lose the piece or have it a little more difficult to clean and deal with inside there? And then actually I'm having a problem getting it stuck back in. All right, there we go. Okay, and the other thing is the run on the pulp outlet, once again, is this long on the Hurom, and on the Nama J2, it's actually this long. So once again, there's like less pulp area when as the pulp run comes out. There's less for you to clean when you're done, right? So once again, this part will take you longer than this part, plus the scrubbing inside here and reaching deep down in here to clean. Whereas on the screen design, you could reach up from the bottom of the screen to clean it, or you could reach down from the top, and you could also easily brush the outside. And that, you know, with this, you have to just brush from the down up, and I found that actually particularly difficult. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that, you know, I have seen some videos where people that own the H300 use a chopstick to stick a chopstick in here to like clear the pulp out. You know, to me, that's, I mean, if a customer has to use a chopstick to clear the pulp out, I mean, that should not be the solution to the design. The design should be improved so that people don't have to do that. That being said, after looking at this in detail, I understand why that occurs, and please bear with me on this. I mean, these are the little things that I'll spot that most people don't. Okay, so look, on the Nama J2, you guys could see this is where the pulp flows out. You could see my pinky, like, sticking my finger through there, right? You could see my finger sticks through there pretty good. I mean, this is a really good size hole. It's basically straight in the bottom. It comes straight out. There's no kind of bends or turns in it. When you put this on, the pulp flap kind of covers that whole area, and you're good to go. So it's actually a fairly large outlet where the pulp goes to ensure you don't clog with something like celery or, you know, other stringy vegetables when you're juicing in the Nama J2, because they've gone through the gamut of having people have challenges with juicing celery in their 5800 model. Meanwhile, on the Hurom H300, here's my pinky. I'm going to try to stick it down in here. Number one, I could barely get it in there, but it doesn't really matter because we're not juicing pinkies or something. But you could see, if I could get my pinky in there, it basically not only is an opening, but now it is an opening with a little piece of plastic that then deflects the produce going this way. So it makes the opening even smaller. So the opening is probably about less than half as wide as the opening on the NAMA J2. In some levels, this could be good because this acts as a pulp restrictor so that you may get a higher yield, but on some levels it could be bad because now you could get back up in clogging when juicing celery, and then you could end up making a mess, putting significantly more pulp in the juice, and then basically not having the juicer work and not being able to get the juicer apart when you're done. So, you know, that's what the expert designers have to deal with. They have to, like, make sure these holes are properly sized to get the most yield, but also have the most usability for the customer so that they don't get pulp clogging and they're going to be happy in the long run. You know, so the size of this concerns me, you know, on the Hurom H300, and I have had personally some issues with it clogging, doing the same recipe that I would in the J2, and the J2 not clogging with pulp, and the pulp flow literally stops. Okay, now I do want to go over one other area on this little lever that basically locks the pulp flap closed. I do have to say that I do like the Hurom design. They basically, on the bottom, they have two little pegs that come out, and this part seems to move a little bit more freely, so it seems like a little bit better design than the design on the NAMA, which actually has the pegs built in to the little lever here. Full disclosure, I did break one of my levers for my NAMA, and NAMA quickly replaced that for me within a few days, and I've heard that NAMA has since improved this part to make it stronger. So should your flap break, it will be covered under the 2-year warranty, and probably even a little beyond that, based on what I know about NAMA. So that's all the different parts. I think on this bowl part, I'll have to give the winner to the NAMA. It's just a better designed, easier to clean bowl, in my personal opinion, just due to the lengths that the juice and the pulp need to flow out, and the design. I mean, I like this one a little bit better, you know. So that's what I'm going to tell you guys. And then over on the motor bases, like the motor bases, like I like them for different reasons. We'll move some of these parts out of the way so you guys can see the motor bases here. So on the motor bases, like the NAMA with its more squarish design takes a little less like footprint on your countertop, right? If we push this up, you guys can see this is a lot more massive with its like circular kind of like a teardrop shape, whereas the NAMA J2 is a bit more a square design with this little back protrusion. So I personally like the shape of the NAMA J2. That being said, both these on the top have a similar kind of like thing that you could press down. They look almost identical to me. And then I do like the Hurom one-touch button actually. So you touch it once, it turns on. If you want it to go reverse, you could hold it down to go reverse. The NAMA has a more traditional dial approach that might have been on a TV back in the 70s, or you could turn it to the on position to go forwards, and you could momentarily reverse it in the back position. That being said, another feature of the Hurom H300 that I personally like is the auto reverse feature. Should you jam it or clog it or put something in too fat or wide, it'll automatically stop, reverse itself, and then go forward, right? Whereas on the NAMA J2, if you put something in too fat and it stops it, you'll have to actually stop it and then reverse it yourself. So the Hurom allows for more unattended juicing. That being said, the Hurom in my testing does need that auto reverse feature, because I could put similar sized carrots in the NAMA, similar sized carrots in the Hurom. The NAMA will just power right through them, whereas the Hurom will not power through them. It'll actually stop and auto reverse and then have to go forward again, right? So my personal belief, and I don't know the exact specs on these things, is that the Hurom motor does not quite have as much torque as the NAMA motor, and this is evident through actually my actual use. So, you know, I think the more hassle-free motor would be the NAMA J2 motor. All right, let's go ahead and assemble both these machines and show you guys how easy they are to assemble. First, we'll be assembling the Hurom H300, how to say H300. So first, we're gonna take that juicing bowl, make sure this is clipped down. We'll open our spout cap, drop that right on the top. We're gonna go ahead and take our 2-piece auger and drop that bottom piece onto the top piece. It kind of locks in place, but it doesn't, right? So you can see I could just easily move it. I don't know if that's supposed to happen or not, but that's how mine is. This can happen when you're undoing it, that this gets stuck in the bottom. So it's interesting. So as we assemble it, drop it in there. And then the cool thing about the Hurom H300 is that you could actually take the top and you can just slide it on the top of the unit and then slide it to lock it closed, right? This is going to prevent a lot of customer complaints because with the NAMA J2 you cannot do this. So assembly on the Hurom, a little bit easier than on the J2. The other thing I didn't mention earlier is that this has 2 handles. I don't know that 2 handles are necessarily needed. I would have just put 1 handle on the bottom, and then I would have made this top like a lot larger to encompass like more area inside. But this is how Hurom designed it. And then finally we got that top, and we just go ahead and put this top. Now the con about the top is that you have to press a bit harder to get this top in, and on the top there's a little lever that presses the safety button that's hidden inside the handle. You could close it, and when you close it you hear a little beep. I mean, that beep could be a little bit annoying sometimes for some people. So on the NAMA J2, first step is you take your wiping blade and you shove the screen in there so it can move freely. You then take your juicing bowl, and there's the 2 notches in the top of the screen. You put the small notch with the small notch, and that just drops into place. Super simple, super easy. You could then take your auger, drop that down in there. I always like to turn it and spin it as I'm dropping it in. Then we're going to go ahead and take our main hopper, hold that by the handle. Most important part, pay attention to this, guys, is that you have this black protrusion with a little green sticker on the back of the NAMA. You want to line that up with this little protrusion on the bowl. So you put it down like that, and then just lock it into place. When you first get the machine, you may be so excited to get the machine, you may take this top and have a handle, and then you're going to basically put the handle on top of this protrusion, and then the machine will never turn on. You're going to think you got a defective machine. That's not the case. The case is that the safety switch is not being activated by this top piece that you need to put on, so this whole protrusion lines up. You can then go ahead and put this on the top of the machine, and finally lock your hinge lid in place. No beep. All right. And actually, that's another interesting thing. There's probably no phantom power when this is in the opposition, whereas with this, I mean, if it is beeping, that means there's probably some phantom power going on, which is going to use electricity, so please unplug it when you guys are done. All right, next thing, we're going to go ahead and do a sound test to see which one of these juicers is louder. All right, press the Hurom on. Hurom's nice and quiet. I'm going to say, call that like a 62 decibels. That's actually quite a quiet machine. Next, let's go ahead and turn on the NAMA J2. All right, that's a little bit louder, and that's about 68 decibels. So in the sound test, if sound alone is the most important, then you're going to want to get the H300 because it actually is a little bit quieter. Why is the NAMA J2 louder? I don't know, maybe because it has a more powerful motor. I don't really know. Well, it has more torque on the motor based on my testing. All right, so that's both of the units, and they work similar. A little bit different method of extraction, screen versus screenless. This is the new technology that is like literally, this is the first machine with this new technology. So if you like being the early adopter, then you could go with the H300. Meanwhile, the screen design is a tried and true and trusted method. That being said, there's a very interesting thing happening. Hurom introduced the H300, then they introduced the H310, now they've come out with the H320, which actually duplicates the screen design in the NAMA J2. So I'm not sure if they're going to abandon their screenless design because now they're coming out with a screen design themselves. So I don't really know about that. So the last thing I want to mention before we do the juice off comparison is that the Hurom H300 is an all-in-one design. So it can make juice as it's set up. I haven't tested nut milks in it, but it should be able to do that as well. And it also said it can make like frozen fruit sorbets as it comes set up with no additional attachments or screens. That being said, the NAMA J2 comes with a fine screen, assembled in the machine when you get it, and then it also comes with a separate smoothie screen. And I know that NAMA is working on an ice cream or sorbet attachment for the J2 that should be released at a later date. All right, so on with this juice off. We're gonna be juicing today pineapples and cucumbers in both machines. All right, now we got the produce all set up and ready to the weigh-in, so let's go ahead and do the weigh-in to make sure we have a fair fight. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the weigh-in over on the NAMA J2 side. Looks like we've got 2301 on the scale, pineapples, cucumber, and jicama. Over on the Hurom side, looks like we got 2301. If I could back up on both scales at the same time to show you guys, we got even amounts, 2301 on both scales. All right, now that we got the weigh-in out of the way, let's go ahead and move these scales out of the way. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually juice today in both juicers at the same time. Since I could go ahead and load up the hoppers on both, I'm probably gonna have to reload the hoppers as the machines are going. I don't know which hopper is gonna run out first, but we're gonna be timing the whole juicing process so you guys can see how long it takes. All right, so what I think I'll do first is we're gonna go ahead and load up these machines, clip this open, flip this up, a little bit harder to flip up, and we're gonna load up maybe like even amounts of pineapple, 1 and 1. Maybe put a cucumber. These are giant Armenian cucumbers going in the machines. Another piece of pineapple, another piece of pineapple. Here's a tip, guys. If you guys cut things smaller, you guys could fit a little bit more at once in the hopper. If you guys cut things larger, you know, you could certainly do that. That's gonna be less pre-cutting for you guys, but the machine will take longer to run, you know, because it's having to do more of the cutting for you. Let's go ahead and put in a piece of jicama in both machines. Put in some more pineapple, another piece of cucumber. All right, looks like we got those all loaded up. Let's go ahead and lock the lids in place. And I guess what we're gonna do now is gonna go ahead and hit the start button and press the on button and turn this on as well. And let's go ahead and get juice. So I think what we're gonna do for you guys is just go ahead and speed this part of the video up to save you guys some time, but you guys could watch in fast motion as it's going. Oh, I do want to say this. I want you guys to notice that the Hurom H300 seems to be shaking a little bit more than the NAMA J2. The NAMA J2 is staying pretty solid, but the Hurom is just kind of rocking all over the place. Once again, the Hurom does run at 10 revolutions per minute faster than the NAMA J2. As you guys can see, this is a lot more violent in the inside there because it runs a bit quicker, and this is kind of running more to slow and moderate pace, although they are both kicking out the pulp. You guys can see the NAMA's kicking out the pulp pretty good. Oh, the Hurom started kicking out the pulp too. And we got a sieve, so we're gonna see how much pulp each of the juicers put out. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and speed this part of the video up for you guys to save you guys some time. All right, last bit of produce going into the Hurom H300. I do want to give you guys a few updates on what's happening while I'm sitting here and while you're seeing it fast forward. You know, the Hurom, if you guys look, it's like rocking a little bit, kind of like there on its base. I can see why it has maybe a wider base. Like it doesn't seem quite as balanced. The NAMA J2, on the other hand, is like nice and stable, quite balanced. As you guys can see, the NAMA J2 is easily kicking out the pulp without any issue. It actually is almost done juicing. I had to fill both machines, I think, the same amount of times. Meanwhile, look at the H300, right? The juice is still coming out, so that's really good. But look, the pulp is like literally stopped coming out of the machine. So I don't know how it's still juicing if the pulp is like stuck up in there. Once again, it's that tiny little pulp outlet port is causing some challenges. You know, I'm wondering if I should try to like help it along or just kind of let it keep running. I mean, you guys can see the J2 is basically almost out of produce now. Oh, and I gotta go ahead and shake this down. Sometimes in the J2, if you're doing wet things like I am today, there's gonna be some stuff, residual stuff stuck on the side. So I always like to just push that down into the little hole on the juicer to kind of help it to get fully juiced up. Let's go ahead and close that on up. I will let you guys know that when I went to refill the J2, the hinge popped off because it's not that tight on there. So NAMA does need to improve that. But I'm gonna call it at 5 minutes and 40 seconds. The NAMA J2 pretty much finished juicing. Meanwhile, the H300 is still going. This is not a good sign that the H300 is taking, like, you know, like there's just so much pulp, like this pulp is still halfway up. It's like the processing blade is cutting it up into small bits, but it's just not going through the juicer because we got that pulp outlet port like literally blocked on up. I think I'll run and get a chopstick. All right, so now I got a chopstick. Let's see if we can kind of like finagle this in there to try to like unclog the H300, like where the pulp come out. This is definitely not a good sign if you guys want to use pineapple, cucumber, a little bit jicama, right? I don't know if I choose the H300 to do that because it's going to be problematic. I mean, maybe things like celery you don't pre-cut maybe also could be problematic. In this case, the soft stuff was problematic. And you know, come on, man, you guys sell a juicer for a lot of money. You shouldn't have to be screwing around with a chopstick to get it to work properly. Plus, because it's backed up, there's significantly more pulp in the juice here. So that's definitely not good. And the pulp does not seem like it basically unclogged, so we're gonna have to stop it. We're gonna tip this up to get all the juice out, and I'm gonna have to go ahead and then show you guys what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna drop this down and pull this out, and then we're gonna go ahead and once again, that long pulp run, so it looks like some pineapple fibers are stuck in there. I mean, I cut the pineapple fibers evenly on the J2 and the H300, and nonetheless, the J2 was able to handle it, but the H300, there's all this pulp stuck in this little port here. It just literally clogged and jammed it, so now I have to like remove it. It looks like there's a seed in there from the oversized Armenian cucumbers, and we're just going to go ahead and help it along and pop off some of the pulp that's stuck in this little port. This is a pain in the you know what, guys. Like, this is not cool. Hurom, please, guys, like, test your stuff with cucumbers and pineapples before you sell it. If it does this, please improve it so it doesn't do this. Like, that's just, I don't know, man. This is just not fun to be hassling with this stuff to me. All right. Of course, if you juice carrots, you know, it's probably going to work fine. But this is what I juiced today. And when you buy a juicer, you should be able to juice anything you want, like without having to use a toothpick. All right, so now we got the pulp finally flowing out again after a little bit of a hassle using a toothpick. So we were in at 5 minutes and 40 seconds on the Nama J2. Once again, on every juicer, I always like to tip it up, get that final extra bits of juice out of the machine. And you know, I didn't have to use a like, you know, chopstick with the Nama J2. I've never had to use a chopstick with the Nama J2. Like, it's just a well-designed machine. They took 3 years literally to design this. All right, so this is still working. It's still juicing. There's still pulp swimming around. The pulp is still flowing out of the machine. This is a good sign. But look, we're at like 9 minutes and 34 seconds already. It's taken significantly longer to juice the same amount of produce in the Hurom H300. All right, to me, the H300 looks like it's just spinning the produce around in this top hopper. The J2 is easily able to get it to all except down in without any intervention. I'm gonna have to go ahead and open this up and once again, use that chopstick to kind of get this stuff off the sides and kind of like rotate this around. I think we got maybe a piece stuck impaled on the auger and kind of push this around to try to like help it get into the juicer, because the juicer is like not taking it in. The processing blade did a pretty good job at chopping all this up, but maybe it chopped it up too much, so now that the pieces are so small, they're not dropping in the juicer effectively. You know, once again, today I was juicing something, you know, on the soft side, right? Maybe with hard stuff it would not happen, you know, but with the soft stuff, that's where this juicer can have some challenges based on the testing you guys are seeing in real time. All right, I think part of the problem is the Hurom H300, the pulp got stuck again, so we're gonna go ahead and turn that off. Drop all the juice in there, and once again, we're gonna have to play with this little spout thing, and once again, I think the main thing is you could take the pulp out here and pull, and you can see all the fibers of the pineapple that got stuck in here, as well as maybe some of the large Armenian cucumber seeds. Once again, this was not a problem in the Nama J2. All right, we got that unclogged, and let's go ahead and keep on juicing. All right, I don't think I unclogged it enough, So this is still just not really juicing effectively. So now this time I got a knife. Sticking a knife into the juicer can cause damage. But this is what I need to do to get this machine to juice today. That's what I gotta do. I think the pulp is starting to come out, but there's still a lot of buildup in this little area, so we literally gotta cut some of those pineapple strings and the seeds that's clogging that I literally broke the chopstick trying to get this little area cleaned out. Alright, hopefully you got it sufficiently clean this time. Let's go ahead and let it continue to juice. Alright, at this point the challenge is that everything's just in the top set, just rotating around and not dropping in. We will give the H300 the benefit of the doubt and kind of position this around and unstick it from the wall to see if it'll help that. But you know what, I can't let this machine run forever just to make some juice. We're already at 15 minutes, so this is like 10 minutes longer. We've been screwing around with the H300 to get it to juice the same exact recipe. Oh look, it's working a little bit better now. And the pulp's flowing out now. Wow. Alright, once again, pulp is stuck in there. Now we got a hassle with it. And you know, here's the thing, guys. Once again, NAMA took 3 years to design and engineer this properly, every single component, and they continue to improve it. I talked to the engineer and the main guys at NAMA on a regular basis, and they're telling me all the little small improvements, rolling improvements they're going to do. So they're not going to make you guys buy like a new machine, you know. As they go on, they make small little changes to make things tighter tolerances, to make it work better, so when you guys buy the NAMA, you are going to get the best machine you guys could get without having to go through these trials and tribulations of like having to, you know, push things into this auto-feeding hopper that in this case hasn't worked so well. I have noticed in the past that this hopper doesn't work as well as the NAMA, but this is like the extreme situation, and these results may not be your own. That being said, if you're juicing pineapple, cucumbers, they're oversized giant Armenians with jicama, right? I'm gonna bet you guys that this is what's gonna happen. Like, it's just gonna clog and jam, and everything just gets chopped up in the top before it actually gets fed in, and then it really doesn't feed in. So like, it's basically, the stuff at the top is sitting there and it's not really dropping in. Like, the mechanism is just not, I don't know, optimal. But the juice is still flowing out, so I don't know, I guess we'll just let this run more. Like, at some point you guys would just get frustrated, turn this off, and I'll have to say like, oh, this is as much yield as we're getting because this is obviously not juicing. Should I let this run until it, you know, finally stops and the juice stops dripping? Well, I think the juice has finally stopped dripping out. Oh, now it starts to come again. Oh my gosh, this has just been like a real, like I would say, nightmare to juice in the Hurom H300. If I didn't have a J2 to know how it worked, like, I would probably think, oh, this is just like fine. And I'm gonna call it right there, right? We're gonna stop that. Oh my gosh, look at that. 19 minutes and we're still screwing with the Hurom H300 to finally, and it didn't even finish juicing everything because it's having such a challenge with it to get everything to go down in there. Now here's a tip I'll give you guys. If this happens to you and you get stuck in the top, and it could be in the NAMA J2 sometimes, right? Depending on what you're juicing. It rarely has this much junk left over in the top unless I'm rejuicing pulp, which is not necessarily advised. But if you want this to juice, then put in like a couple whole carrots or some jicama or some beets, some root vegetables that processing blade could spin around. The hard stuff could hit that soft stuff, get it into the machine, and get it juiced up for you. So yeah, that was an insane amount of time it took in the Hurom H300, and it really was not able to complete it. I think that's the first time in a juice off that it was not able to complete totally. So let's go ahead and check the yields and check how much pulp was made in the juice. I'm using the exact same sieve, and I tap down the sieve to get the most liquid out. And you guys can see, let's go ahead and close that spout cap. That spout cap's closed. Move this up front and center for you guys. Alright, now I want to show you guys the pulp created in both machines. Once again, because the H300 got clogged and backed up, it put excessive pulp into the juice. Normally it wouldn't put this much, but it probably would put maybe more than the NAMA depending on what you're juicing. But in this case, you could see the difference. That's a significant difference, guys. There's so much pulp in the juice. It's almost like a smoothie in the H300. You know, that screenless design may be easier to clean, but you know, it puts a lot more pulp in the juice. And that's 112 grams of pulp in the juice on the H300. So that's a significant amount of pulp. And actually, I want to show you guys that. This is the amount of pulp in the H300, and this is the amount of pulp in the Nama J2. Right? I will say the pulp in the Nama J2 is more wet than the pulp from the H300. The pulp is more dry. I'm not going to say that it isn't. It is more dry, but that's because it has a tighter restriction zone, and because of that tighter restriction zone, it also didn't get everything to go through the juicer, clogged up, and I had to put a toothpick or a chopstick in there to get it free, right? Plus, there's a lot more pulp in the juice. Let's go ahead and weigh out the Nama J2 pulp. 18 grams of pulp that the Nama J2 put into the juicer. A much more respectable amount in my book. But yeah, that was insane, the hassle juicing in the H300. Once again, this is my experience doing this exact recipe. Should I have juiced something else, like carrots, results would have been different. It would not have jammed. I've used the H300 on other occasions where I didn't have this level of difficulty, although I did have to use a chopstick to clear out the port. Anyways, let's go ahead and do a close-up on the yields for you guys to see how much juice we made in each juicer. Now I want to compare the yields for you guys. Give you guys a close-up. Over on the Nama J2 side, looks like we got straight up about 7 quarts of juice. 8 quarts is that top line, 7 quarts is that lower line that it comes up to. Got a fair bit of foam over on the J2. And then over on the Hurom H300, looks like we also have a fair bit of foam on the H300 as well. Maybe similar amount. And then down to the Hurom H300. Actually, check it out. Even without juicing everything, because there's still stuff left in the juicer, looks like the Hurom H300 actually made a little bit more juice. Alright, yeah, so even without juicing everything, the Hurom H300 actually on this specific recipe was fairly efficient. Alright, so I wasn't expecting that. Wow, the Hurom H300 actually made more juice, even though there's still pulp left in the machine. So when it did work, it did squeeze out actually a good, strong yield. Once again, your mileage may vary depending on what you juice. In this case, the Hurom made more. In some cases, the Nama made more. I haven't tested everything, but when I did my root vegetable recipe, I pressed out the wet pulp out of this, it actually was wetter than if I use the J2 specifically. So it's very important when using these auto feed juicers is to have a good percentage of root vegetables, which will just make the machine more efficient overall. Alright, next I want to go ahead and taste test the juice. I think we'll taste test the juice out of the Nama J2 first. We made lots of juice here. Pineapple, cucumber, jicama. That's a nice juice. The pineapple gives it some sweetness. Cucumber just kind of tastes neutral like water. And I did cut the 2 pineapples up in half one here, one half in here. Same thing on the cucumber. Cut the cucumber in half, one half one here, one half one here. Do the same thing on the jicama. So we basically use the same produce. I mean, I gotta say that's a good juice. Next, let's go ahead and try the H300 juice. H300 juice. Interesting thing is, this juice has a bit different color, maybe a little bit more greenish from the cucumbers. Interesting. I'm about to try the J2 juice. To me, this juice tastes a bit more watery over on the Hurom side. Interesting. The juice on the Nama in this case tastes a tad bit sweeter. Let me go ahead and try that again. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm tasting. Like the Nama juice a bit sweeter. The Hurom juice is a little bit more muted, not as sweet. And once again, I cut 2 pineapples exactly in half. One went here, so they had the same amount of pineapples and same kind of pineapples. the NAMA made less juice, but it tasted sweeter. So that's quite interesting. So yeah, one made more yield, one tasted better. And of course, one had no problem ejecting the pulp, one had some significant challenges ejecting the pulp. Lastly, what I want to do is I want to show you guys actually what you got to clean when you're done juicing, all right? So over on the NAMA J2 side, we could go ahead and pull off this top piece. And underneath the top piece, you guys can see there's very little residue, maybe a little bit of residue here and here, but very little residue. We pop the top off. Inside, you guys can see there's very little residue inside there, maybe a little bit on the back side where this little line is. Over on the Hurom H300 to compare, let's go ahead and take this bowl off. On the bottom of this bowl, this is because all the pulp was still left in there, right? The bottom of the bowl. And then if we go ahead and pop the lid up, a little bit more difficult to pop up, you guys can see there's a lot more residue left there in the bowl that like literally did not get juiced. Next coming out is we got the auger on the J2. Actually no pulp underneath the auger. We got some pulp stuck in the auger on the J2. Meanwhile over on the Hurom, let's go ahead and pull the auger out. The top auger, you know, probably had a bit more pulp in there. Once again, that didn't finish juicing because there's still pulp in the hopper that did not get juiced. You know, and there's no pulp on the bottom layer. That's because it probably is all stuck here on the bottom. This piece is stuck in there pretty good. And on the bottom layer, you know, less pulp too. So let's go ahead and assemble these to show you guys. So if we assemble these like this, you guys can see, I mean, I'd probably say this is about a fairly even amount of pulp to clean on both. That being said, while you could rinse this, once again, I do encourage you guys to use some soap and water and use the brush to brush off the different carotenoid pigments of the vegetables and fruits you're juicing, as well as the mineral deposits that will stain your juice over time. And actually, if you just rinse this machine without soap, then the little edges will get clogged up with mineral deposits that will reduce your yield and performance over time. All right, next on the NAMA J2 coming out, we got the wiping blade that's actually pretty much free and clear of all the debris. I usually wash this, spray a high pressure on it, and then use a brush with some soap on it. Pretty easy to clean. The outside of the screen actually is fairly easy to clean. There's not really even any pulp like lodged in there. Inside of the screen, a little bit different. You guys can see there's a lot of pulp in there that's going to come off fairly easily. Meanwhile, over on the juicing bowl on the Hurom, there's, you know, significant amount of pulp inside here as well as pulp shoved down in the bottom, and especially if that pulp port was blocked down in here where it's actually hard to reach, so you'll need to use a special toothbrush, you know, cleaner that came with the machine to kind of get down in here. I mean, I can't even get in there with my pinky because it's just the area is too thin. I got to use a tool, so you should use a cleaning tool. But yeah, there's some pulp stuck in there that you'll just have to, like, you know, wipe out. Once again, this trap door will drop down, and then you got this little spout thing that you could open and clean in there. Once again, a longer run to clean. And then finally over on that NAMA J2, you got the juicing bowl, which is actually fairly empty and easy to clean. So see guys, I'm just telling you guys, you're trading cleaning this for the inside of the screen. And once again, on the screen, you can access it from the bottom and the top. And on this part, you've got to access it from the top, and it's harder to clean those little channels down below. And this could just be hosed out, basically, or sprayed down. Once again, the trap door opens up and the pulp is easy to remove. So in this juice off comparison, what is my summary? Man, this is a tough one. Like the NAMA was well designed so that it did not clog, yet because it's well designed, did not clog. You know, the designers implemented that, so maybe on this recipe it gave up some yield. So actually the Hurom H300 beat it in yield, but was a lot more pain in the butt to work because it took significantly longer, left more pulp in the juice. I had to clear out the little pulp port thing and you know, put a lot more pulp into the juice, like significantly more pulp. I think the H300 generally costs more than the NAMA J2. So, you know, like, I don't know, more yield, but then everything else favors the NAMA, including a 5-year longer warranty on the motor base. So yeah, you're gonna lose a little yield, maybe have a minute more in cleaning, but you're gonna lose the hassle and the unproven technology of the screenless design, which in some ways I like, and for the right, when you're juicing the proper vegetable that designed to work well with the screenless technology, it might work great. It might not give you any hassle. It'll save you a minute to clean. But once again, it's not proven technology. This is the first time they've used this specific design on a Hurom model that they released to the public use, whereas the screen design is tried and true. I think for that reason, if it was me and I was buying two of these juicers, like, I would clearly buy the Nama J2. If the Hurom did not clog and have all these issues with it mainly clogging and not getting all the produce, you know, into the machine, in the hopper, because it kind of just rotated around. It also took longer to feed in, so even if it didn't clog, it would have still took longer juicing than the Nama J2, because the Nama J2 is a little bit more efficient in feeding things in and getting this hopper completely empty and all the produce juiced up. I hope both the companies, Hurom and Nama, continue to improve their machines. Nama could work on maybe inching up the yield on some of the softer produce items. Hurom needs to basically work on, you know, making it so that the juicer doesn't clog up when somebody juices something soft, and putting less pulp in the juice and getting their little hopper to like completely empty. Also, if I was Hurom, I'd make this like little press lid thing easier to work, and I'd expand the volume of this and just not make this a cut off like circle, but like a full circle, and delete the handle in the back. I mean, these are just things I do, but I don't design juicers. I just sell them and make videos for you guys. And what I'm gonna tell you guys is, if you guys appreciate my videos and all the time it took to juice the produce, get the produce, share my expert opinions with you, I would encourage you guys to support me, my work. And you can do this by two ways. Number one, if you guys are looking for a Nama J2 inside the US or outside the US, you can visit namaweld.com and use my coupon code for a 10% off coupon discount, or $55 off the J2 juicer, so that you guys could get a J2 juicer and get the same performance that I've experienced today, and the hassle-free juicing of juicing with a hopper, so you guys could juice in batch juices using no hands. This is the most impressive technology that I've seen in juicing in a while. Instead of having to feed things in the juicers one at a time, I really love this hopper technology that frees you up to do other things important in your life. So when you guys use that coupon code, not only will you guys save 10%, but Nama will share a small commission with me, you know, because I share with you guys the truth about the different juicers, so that I can continue my work. So your purchase at namaweld.com using my coupon code is much appreciated, so I can continue my work to do these fair and comparisons where you guys just get my honest opinions, and you actually see what happens, like, uncut. This is not like a 5-minute video share with you guys like this and this. Like, I'm proving everything to you guys that I'm saying. I'm not like making nothing up, okay? Or you could also, if you're in the US, you could buy at discountjuicers.com. We sell the Nama J2 in the US voltages only, and we only ship to the US. And of course, when you buy at Discount Juicers, we don't have that special 10% off discount coupon code. So it's gonna cost a little bit more money, but in the end, you're gonna get better service, because you're gonna have me on your side to answer any juicer questions after you get your juicer, as well as to help you get warranty support after you buy the juicer. Should you have any challenges with not getting Nama to reply, if you buy the juicer at Discount Juicers, let me know, and I'll ensure that they take care of you during your full duration of your warranty, and maybe even a little bit after on some of the juicer parts. So that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and also please be sure to share this with somebody else so that they could see how the Nama J2 and the Hurom H300 compare. Also be sure to click that like button to like this video, so that the YouTube algorithm could get this video out to more people, so that they could see the truth about the Nama J2 and the Hurom H300. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below, so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes coming out about every 5 to 7 days. You never knew what new juicer or what new juicers I'll be comparing what's against each other, so you guys could find the right juicer for you. And make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. Finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 600 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about the different juicers and why eating fruits and vegetables and using appliances to process them can be healthy for you to do. Put a couple links down below to videos I've made in the past with the Hurom H300, as well as the NEMA J2 so you guys could learn more about those individually. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.